Here's what Pines wheatgrass looks like in the field before we harvest it. You notice there's no stems, only about 6 or 7 inches tall. The ovule is still in the roots, it's still coming up. It hasn't developed a stem yet. It's still basically at the stage that Dr. Schnabel said, and the other scientists said, was the jointing stage, the time when you should harvest wheatgrass, barley grass, oatgrass, other cereal grasses. Now let's look at the field. This field is about 2 weeks beyond the jointing stage. It's a week past Easter. We would have harvested a week before Easter if we were going to harvest it, but we didn't harvest it, and now it's 2 weeks later. If you look at the web page of one of our competition, you'll see somebody laying in wheatgrass that looks just like this, just as tall as this. It's tall around his body, which shows that they were harvesting at way past the jointing stage. Now here's what the wheatgrass looks like when it got to Dr. Schnabel's laboratory from our fields. Nice short grass, no stem, and here's what the other field looks like that we didn't harvest 2 weeks after the jointing stage. They think that the jointing stage is the cut above the joint, which is up in here someplace. The joint on the tallest column here is all the way up here. Now you can see that it's a head of wheat. Now the problem is when they do, even though they try to harvest above the joint, which they call the jointing stage, I'm not sure why they get that, where they get that idea. The jointing stage is when this ovule is way down here in the root. When we harvest the wheatgrass, the joint is down here at the ground level. It's still the size of a pinhead. It's a very tiny, tiny thing. What happens is the wheatgrass, the nourishment in the wheatgrass supplies the nourishment for the growing ovule. As it goes up the stalk, it grows in size, drains the nutrition from the wheatgrass, and then you get an ovule right here, which is like a miniature head of wheat. In about another week, it will pop out of the top. Some of the other columns here on the plant still have the ovule down a little bit farther. So when they harvest at the jointing stage, they try to cut, they call it the jointing stage. We would call it way past the jointing, 2 weeks past the jointing stage. When they harvest at the jointing stage, they harvest right in here. So some of the columns, they do have gluten in them. Now we found out from experience with dealing with some of these people that their product had gluten in the final product. So they developed what they called a de-stemming method to get rid of the stem part of this, so there was mostly just leaf. But the problem is that the wheatgrass, which was down here at the root, has already been drained of its nutrition. That's where the really rich material was. Here's some of the product we purchased from them. But if you look real close, you can see much more fiber in the product than what we produce. And here's what we produce right over here, which is harvested at the true jointing stage. There's hardly any fiber in it at all. That's because it was harvested before it got tall, before it had stems. We don't need to de-stem our product because there's no stems in it. But this product had to be de-stemmed, and it still has a very high fiber content. Let's look at the Pines product. It's in a oxygen-free amber glass bottle, so there's no oxidation that could occur between the time it was bottled and now when I open it. There's the canning seal. Let's pour it out. Now, see the difference in oxidation? High fiber content of wheatgrass grown past the jointing stage. You can see the fibers are in there. There's hardly any fiber in this one. You can see the fiber in the pellets. Very little of the fiber you can see in the Pines wheatgrass pellets that came from wheatgrass cut at the jointing stage. When the ovule was at root level, this is where the ovule was about 5 or 10 inches above, and it was de-stemmed to get rid of the stems. Well, again, we don't de-stem our product because we don't need to. Anyway, it's a little lesson on the difference between a stemmed wheatgrass product that's cut 2 weeks after jointing and an unstemmed wheatgrass product that is cut at the jointing stage when the ovule still is at the ground level.